Hey there. Listen, I just wanted to hop on to address this question that keeps coming up about what makes a man a provider, right? I've seen a couple posts about, if you got to split half the bills, is he really a provider? Or is he a roommate? I had a conversation just last night with my uncle, and we were talking about, what it meant for him to be a provider and how he had grown up, and it clicked that a lot of these questions and conversations around what makes a man a provider versus a roommate, we are stuck in a mindset of what it used to be. And I helped my uncle understand. I was like, listen, be clear that this provider mentality and mindset that we have now put on men was not because gender requirement that men had to provide. It's like when you look at the way relationships used to be and how they got into them in the beginning, like for many men, at that time, he was literally marrying a 14-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 16-year-old, a 17-year-old. She was literally a kid. And I'm not even finna go down a path of let's talk about patriarchy. No, none of that. Forget that part. But let's just deal with how men ended up having to be providers. If you are going to marry a 15-year-old, then yes, it would make only sense that you would have to have a place for that kid to go, or that young lady, if that makes your conscience feel better. But be clear that there was nothing unique about the idea that men were somehow special or different. No, he was marrying and choosing his bride from the standpoint of she was not actually capable of taking care of herself. She literally was a man's daughter, which is why that man needed to have a conversation with her father, because there is no situation in the world where you can walk into somebody's house or see somebody's child and be like, yo, I like her, I like him, they coming with me now. No, that's called kidnapping. So yes, you do have to get her father's permission for her hand in marriage, because otherwise you'd be kidnapping his child, and that is not good, period. Yes, you probably would have to be able to provide for all of her needs, because she would not be able to provide for her own needs, and her dad was going to provide for all of her needs if she were going to stay with him. But because of the dynamics of families and what it meant at that day, again, dad was like, will you take care of her? Because if you will take care of her, then great. Then now I have less pressure, because I got 8, 9, 10, 14 kids here that I got to provide for as the man, because he had done the exact same thing. And so this provider mindset and mentality that we've gotten, it's be clear where that started from, right? And as the love engineer, that's my whole heart, is making sure we're clear about how did we get here? What's the why behind the what? Because we get so stuck on the what, and people keep passing down the what must be done without any context to the why it was being done. And in the absence of the why it's being done, you start having people executing things that they think is what it's supposed to be without anything. So we got all this unnecessary pressure we're putting on men to be providers, and you got to take care of everything. It's if you're going to marry somebody who's absolutely incapable of taking care of themselves, then yes, if you choose that, then yeah, you should absolutely make sure she has a home, a car, food, and what have you. But be clear that the model that was created in was a different time than today. So now you're walking into a relationship and you see somebody and you want to be involved with them. Then now we're talking about partnership. Why are we talking partnership? Because when we meet, I have a house too. You're not picking me up off of my dad's couch. I also already have a home. You already have a home. So now we're coming together as partners. And the things that you may provide, because that's important to provide, now as a partner, you get to understand what provisions do I need. Back in the day, the provisions were very clear. She was young. So yeah, she needed the basics provided for her because she could not provide for herself. And again, how you feel about people marrying it, again, that's not the point of this at all. It's recognizing why he had to be the ultimate provider, why he had to make sure he could protect her for the exact same reasons that fathers protect children today. for the exact same reasons, because she could not. And she was in a vulnerable position, not because she was a woman, but because she was a kid. And then you layer on the fact that she was a woman, and you got all these other dynamics. 21st century relationships, we have a different model. And so now, provider, protector, now she might need you to provide space for her emotional support. Now she might need you to provide an environment that allows her to grow in her dreams. Now she might need you to provide the push and the encouragement for her to break past her shell, to go after what it is that she wants. And she might also still need you to provide for a home or whatever the case might be, but not like you think it was. Because again, like I said, that old school model is just that. It was a model that was based upon them needing something because of the conditions under which it was created. And so I was having this conversation, and again, it helped my uncle break free, and my heart and prayer is that it breaks a lot of other men free. It's like, sir, your value is not tied to your pocketbook or your bank account, right? Because I know a bunch of brothers who are choosing to remain not married or not being willing to commit in relationships because they have this societal insecurity that says, I'm not man enough if I can't take care of everything. Let that nonsense go, because the reality is that the reason why men before were having to provide for everything is because they were taking brides from literally her dad's home. And so a lot of the things that now have become tradition were born out of a practice that had nothing to do with the quality of relationships, nothing. It had to do with the conditions of the people that were going into those relationships. And so yes, she might still need provision today, but it'll look different. And while we're at it, we're talking about, and then for the sisters, again, it's also check why that was the model again, so we don't create this narrative that says, oh, if you can't pay for all the bills in the house, then you can't be a man. That is crazy. You already are paying the bills. You already are. And he's like, well, I don't want a roommate. In college, I actually had a guy roommate. So my entire collegiate experience, my roommate was a guy. And here's what I know about roommates who are men. If he is a roommate, if you're concerned about whether or not he's a roommate, this is what you need to check for. Do you guys have separate rooms? If you have separate rooms, then yes, you have a roommate. Can you both bring love interest to the place and have there be no negative consequences, no ill feelings, and no hurt feelings by doing that? If the answer is yes, you have a roommate. Do you have any romantic connections to this person? Are you sleeping with them? Are you performing duties that you would only do for somebody that you were romantically involved in? Is there intimacy? Is there sex? And is there a connection? If the answer to that is no, then you have a roommate. Otherwise, if he's paying bills and you're paying bills, if you sharing the same room, sharing the same bed, sharing physical intimacy, emotional intimacy, spiritual intimacy, because intimacy is on some levels here. And if you guys are the only people in that relationship, then what you have is a partner. And the levels of partnership may look differently, right? My roommate and I, yes, we split bills, but we also split everything else. And yet there had some other involvement and connections, and we were on the same teams of things and all this other good stuff, but nothing romantic, nothing platonic. And when he wanted his girlfriend to come over, she could come over. And I wanted a guy to come over, he could come over, and there would be no deal. So stop it with this. With these expectations that we're putting on people without any context as to how we got there. The question is, do you want to be loved, or do you want to be traditional? And you can have both, but just at least realize that there is so much more leeway for what we can do, what we can be, and how we can be in a relationship. And so, yes, if your partnership needs you to both split bills, then you can still have a great relationship. If your partnership allows for him to pay all the bills, then you can still have a great partnership. If your partnership requires her to be paying the bills because she's making all the money and he's not, then you can still have a great partnership if there is respect, love, and trust at the basis of it as you build said partnership. Let me know what your thoughts are. Follow me. We can keep this discussion going over in the group. So join me in Dessert and Discussion with Alex, the Love Engineer. But I do want to make sure that we are not holding on to these outdated ideas that are creating so much stress and strain in the 21st century because you're trying to make something fit today that came from a time that is nothing like what we're dealing with now. So continue to discuss, and let's discuss this over in Dessert and Discussion.